Hi, it's Lisa here from Business in Heels, and I'm so excited tonight to be back on Facebook Live chatting to you all. Happy New Year to you, and I'm introducing Julie Elliot, who's our newest ambassador to Business in Heels, and I'm really delighted. Julie and I met last year, and I was just so impressed by her passion about helping women with finance. And Julie's got the most interesting and diverse background, so we're going to spend a little bit of time teasing that out. So welcome, Julie.
Hi, Lisa, and happy 2018 to everyone. I just know it's going to be an amazing year full of wonderful things for us all.
Yes, so very exciting. So, Julie, you have the most unique background, given that you cover off accounting, banking and financial planning. And you've done all these amazing things. So you're in this unique position to give people information and advice about finance. But tell us a little bit of your background. How did you come to have this really diverse career?
Lisa, and this is something else I am really passionate about, because I think it's a great lesson for women. And I've learned over the time, it's really important, our role as female leaders, to be trailblazers and role models for others. But I think the lesson I learned early on was really say yes and have a go, which is what our male counterparts do. But all the research shows females do that a lot less. So for one example is, I was working for the National Australia Bank in Melbourne, and I'd been approached to join the board of the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. And initially when I got that, because I'm a banker and accountant, I thought, well, what do I know about fires and fighting fires, or what value can I bring? And I thought, no, stop, say yes and have a go. And then I got asked to be the chair, and the same thing, it was, well, who am I to chair this organisation? And I said to myself, no, stop the voice. Others have seen something in you that they believe you can do it. So why should you doubt yourself more than they doubt you? So see in yourself what others are obviously seeing in you. Because if you're enough, they wouldn't be asking you to do it. So, and look, initially, it's really scary, and you take a deep breath, and you dive in the deep end, and then you come up and dog paddle, and then you ultimately swim, and that's okay. I think sometimes too we compare ourselves to people at the end of their career.
Yep.
We don't remember what they were like at the beginning as well, and it's a journey for us all.
Yes, and I think you clearly were very brave to do it, but you must have learnt so much.
Oh no, absolutely, and particularly being such a 200-year-old organisation with 2,000 males working in it. I thought very deeply about my first day in the role, and I did a number of things that were quite ceremonial. I was a bit fortunate, and I will say I didn't start the fire, but on my first day in the chair, there was a very big fire out towards the airport in Melbourne, in a factory. And so they asked me, because I spent the whole day in the business, and they asked me if I wanted to go out and attend the fire, and I said, yes, no, I will go. And I donned gumboots, and I sloshed around in the mud, but I started to earn people's respect. And then I visited they're very into their history, so I visited the historic museum and spoke to the volunteers that work there who were retired firefighters, and I also went out and met with the union on their own territory.
Wow.
And the United Firefighters Union's a very tough negotiator.
Oh, I bet.
So I did those things quite deliberately. So I thought deeply about that, and that was all quite calculated and deliberate. And then I just worked away over the 2 years. But what meant the most to me was at my farewell, all these 4th and 5th generation firefighters asked to come. And one of them got up to speak, and he said, "Girlie, we weren't sure about you at first," and I wasn't offended by that. That was a term of endearment. But he said, "Girlie, we weren't sure about you at first, but you're the real deal and you've made a difference, and thank you. And Lisa, like that meant more to me than anything else that could have happened. And I think for female, not just for me, but for females generally, the fact that the fire brigade, when I was first appointed, I'm sure they all thought, well, the fire brigade as we know it's just going to end.
This is it.
But the fact that it actually survived and flourished, and then they felt so strongly about it that they said that when I left was meant more to me than anything else.
And I think, what you're demonstrating here is just a great example of why females can bring so much good, being chairs and CEOs and a different perspective. It's not about trying to be a guy. It's about just bringing to it your qualities, the best of you.
Absolutely, being the best, as you say, the best of who you are. And I always try to be, real and authentic and, quite down to earth. In fact, I have been criticised at times for being too humble, but personally, I don't think you can be too humble. But that's who I am, and I will be the best me I can be. But I've got to be me because there's only one of me. Exactly,
and you're unique. So tell us, how you came to be the CEO of the Bank of Sydney, and then, a little bit about, what you like to do and help women around finances, because it's a massive problem. And I guess, just to call out to anybody who's online and watching us, if you've got any questions of Julie, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll try and bring them up as we go along. So.
Absolutely happy to answer anyone's questions. Bank of Sydney is a small bank operating in Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide. Got 200 employees and about $3 billion balance sheet. And initially started...
$3 billion?
Well, the problem with working in banking, and I did learn this early on with my own personal checkbook, was you deal with numbers on a daily basis with so many zeros after it. It's very easy to lose perspective of your own finances, so you've always got to keep that in balance. And it does. Good point. It does roll off the tongue. But so we had started life in Australia 20 odd years ago, initially as a Greek bank called Lakey Bank, and then due to the economic problems we all know about in Greece, the bank got sold and got bought by the Bank of Beirut, which is one of the largest banks in Lebanon. So we had a Greek and a Lebanese customer base. So if you've got a Greek and Lebanese customer base, you would appoint an Australian female to run I came in as the fourth CEO of the bank, the only female to be the CEO, and I'm the second only the second woman in Australia to run a bank. The bank Gail Kelly ran, my former employer Westpac, was a little bit bigger, but it takes all types of businesses to make the world go round. They were looking for a new CEO and they wanted something a bit different. And the headhunter found me. And again, I said, well, I will give it a go, but in a very different marketplace. Luckily, due to my life growing up in the western suburbs of Sydney, I had a lot to do with both the Greek and Lebanese communities. So they were quite familiar to me. And I felt very comfortable and home in that space. And I'm very respectful of cultures as well. But it was a massive learning journey because, I had to learn how to be respectful of, the Islamic faith and, Christians and Orthodoxy and, the Middle East is a real melting pot. And I visited Lebanon on 3 occasions, which was just an amazing experience as well. But the bank grew from strength to strength. The first month I was there, we made about $150,000 profit after tax. And the last month I left, after 3 years, we'd built it to, we'd made $1 million after tax in the month.
Wow. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah. So I think with anything, it's about just chipping away and, with any business, it's about, having a focus, sticking at it, taking action. Strategy's only 20%, action's 80%. Sticking to it and just knowing, and sometimes it's actually when results aren't coming as quickly as you'd like them to be, the harder decision is actually to hold the line and hold the path and not divert it off onto other things. You know that what you're doing is the right thing, and it's just some things, no matter how much we want it, just take time.
Yeah. So, Julie, we were talking earlier. I mean, there's a lot of statistics at the moment around women in business being the fastest growth area, women in business struggling to be successful, women not getting loans from banks, women struggling with finance. And I know you are really passionate about making a difference in this space. So what are some of the tips you'd like to give to women in business just to think about?
Yeah. So I think definitely, I talk about don't be afraid of the F word, F being finance.
Thank you.
I know so many women who are really, so passionate about their businesses and what they do. But you mentioned finance, whether it's, the accounts or the cash flow of the business, and their eyes just glaze over. You don't have to fully understand it, but engage with it. Don't just glaze over. Engage with the finances, because it's a fundamental part of the business. Finance isn't one thing in the business, something else. They're actually all part of the whole, and the finances of the business have to be part of that foundation for a strong business. And we all know if we don't build a house on a strong foundation, it's not a strong house. So don't be afraid of your finances. Don't be afraid of your partnership with your bank, and you should see your accountant, your planner if you have one, and your banker all as part of your team and your resources. So engage with them as partners, and don't be afraid to be open and honest and transparent with them. And if you're struggling, no one ever likes to be in that situation or to admit that, but better to go along and because they'll know you have a problem. They'll be able to see it from what they can see and what's happening. But far better, and you're going to get a far better outcome if you go along and talk with them and say, hey, look, this is what I'm experiencing. How can we work together to help me just over this hump, because that's all I need, than to be, get the dreaded call from the bank manager, hey, look, we've got problems. Can you come in and can we talk about this? Because then you're immediately on the back foot and they're on the front foot. So, really develop those partnerships and work at it.
Yeah,
but engage.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. And not, this is, you're talking about relationships with people and having relationships with people you like. So pick those people carefully, because at the end of it, it's a trust relationship when you're talking to a financial planner or to your accountant. So you want to have somebody that you really like and trust.
Yeah. And my answer is always go and ask your friends, go and ask other people in business that you deal with, and get 3 names, and then go and meet with them all. And then, I do believe, obviously knowledge is really important, but never underestimate the power of your gut. If your gut's telling you something, it's generally for a good reason. So even though you mightn't understand all the technical side of what they're talking about, if they're talking too technically and talking down to you, they're probably not right for you anyway, firstly. But secondly, if your gut's telling you, this person gets me, they get what I'm trying to achieve, I've got a good feeling about this, and you've had a personal recommendation for them, it's probably the right person for you.
That's great advice, Julie. There's also quite a lot of options, aren't there, beyond the banks now for people to think about?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And cash flow is king. So particularly in the early stage, well, at all stages of a business, but particularly in the early stages, cash flow is actually even more important than profitability. But there's lots of different options out there for cash flow solutions that aren't exorbitantly expensive, that you don't have to pledge your house for. So just be open, explore other opportunities and be open to them as well. And increasingly, with peer-to-peer lending and things happening in the financial services space, it's becoming lots of new entrants, lots of new products. So it's changing all the time. I mean, even your existing products, over time, banks update their products, they eliminate fees, they bring out new products. So it never hurts every couple of years to just test the market with what you're doing as well, to make sure that the products you've got suit you best, they're most current, the fees are the best that you can get in the marketplace. Because, particularly for small and growing businesses, when you want to keep investing back in the business to allow it to grow, attention to some of those things is important.
Oh, absolutely. And quite often, somebody might be getting a contract to export, and that would require a lot of capital. And so, there are solutions. It could be a government organisation. There's lots of different cash flow, and we've also got our hotline that people can check out as well. But you just know that what you grew up with traditionally is not the limit of what's available today.
Oh, no, absolutely. And you mentioned trade. For something like trade, there's lots of options around trade finance as well, which will not only be a good cash flow funding option for you where you're dealing with trade. Those people that specialise in those areas are very across the documentation and the risks. So they'll actually help you manage not just your cash flow, but a lot of the risks associated with that as well. Make sure that the goods, you either get the goods or you get the money. Risk is really important to manage in business. Not very sexy, but risk is really important.
It makes the difference between whether you stay in business maybe or don't. So
and look, it doesn't need to be, you don't need the same risk assessments for a small business that you need for a large bank or whatever. I really believe risk has got to be fit for purpose, but it's something that you've got to have thought about and thought, well, how do I minimise this, because I really can't afford if this transaction went wrong, it really could mean the end of my business. So what am I doing to cover it?
Yeah, exactly. So Julie, if you had to sum up like 3 key tips that you would want to pass on to other women, what would they be?
So engage in your finances.
Yep.
Say yes and have a go. And relationships, and that's something that we're supreme at. So that's something we should be exceptionally good at.
Yeah, except quite often in business, women think it's different to the rest of our relationships. So,
it's not. Just bring those same skills you take to your friends, your family relationships. It's the same skills, just applied in a different way.
Yeah, fantastic. Julie, we are so delighted to have you on board as an ambassador. If anyone's got any of those amazing questions and you just have felt that you're not quite sure what to ask, or you're feeling a little intimidated to ask, please feel free to contact Julie. She's the loveliest person to chat to, and I'm sure you've all got a great sense of that now after hearing her speak. Don't sit there not knowing, because, this could be really important to you. So thank you so much for coming on board. We will be talking in the not too distant future about the new payments platform and how it's coming to Australia and what that means. So stay tuned. And if there are other burning financial questions that you have, add them on to this video and we'll come back and answer them publicly. So that would be great. So thank you very much.
Very excited to be on board and look forward to making a difference with everyone in 2018.
Yes, likewise. All right. Thank you.